This robotic rodent takes to the streets of Chicago. Here to look at the new Nacelle Biker Mice from Mars Modo Cyborg Mouse. Are you ready to rock out into battle with Modo, the one-mouse army with a heart of gold? He may not be the quickest thinker around, but Modo more than makes up for it with his bionic arm and rocket gun. Standing at almost 8 inches tall, this Modo action figure is a must-have for any true fan of the classic animated series. Just for the record, I'm sure the Plutarchians could beat Modo if he had one arm tied behind his back. That arm tied behind his back. Before we look at the tallest of the three brand new Biker Mice from Mars figures from the folks over at Nacelle, one correction though I did want to make from the earlier 2 reviews, I'm sure you guys have already let me know down below in the comments section, I kept calling the company Nacelle. I was thinking too much of Star Trek. I think it's actually pronounced Nacelle. This is the 3rd Biker Mice from Mars. This is Modo. Modo was actually voiced in the cartoon by actor Dorian Harewood. If you don't recognize the name, you probably recognize the face. He's been in various action movies. The one I remember the most is 1995's Sudden Death, starring the one and only Jean-Claude Van Damme. Modo, though, is going to be the tallest, and he actually stands, if you include the antenna, about 7.5 inches in height. You don't want to include the antennas. I don't know why. Then it only drops the figure down to about 7.25 inches in height, and that works out to be a figure that's about 18 centimeters tall. As for the other Biker Mice from Mars, here's what Modo looks like along with Throttle, and also what he looks like with Vinny. Now, they're scaled pretty well. I feel, if anything, they may have maybe wanted to make Vinny just a tad bit taller. I think, though, in the cartoon, Throttle was about 6'4", Vinny was about 6'1", and, of course, Modo being the tallest, he was about 6'9". But even though I still feel like Vinny probably could have been just a hair bit taller, here's what the 3 Biker Mice from Mars figures finally look like together. The running joke in these reviews seems to be the fact that all 3 figures come included with hot dogs, and Modo is no exception. If you're looking, though, at the hot dogs, and of course we have to bring the other 2, this was the one that we got included with Vinny. I think from a wiener color standpoint, they're about the same color. So really, Modo's is the only wiener that stands out. Stop that. You see the 3 hot dogs together. Still don't really know why Nacelle chose to have the hot dogs all different colors, even though really these 2 are the closest in colors, and why they're absent of any condiments whatsoever. At the very least, throw a little bit of mustard on these, unless maybe just the mustard was too close in color to the coloring of the buns. It's the last we're going to talk about hot dogs for a very, very long time. Figure also comes included with a blaster. Now, the blaster also is the exact same one. Oh, I got a little bit of tape there left behind. All of these, by the way, were taped inside the tray. I guess not. I've removed all the tape. But they are the same blasters, if I can actually hold all 3 of them. Same blasters as the other 2 Biker Mice from Mars. I seem to be all thumbs here. There we go. You can see. All the 3 are identical. They almost, looking at the end of them, they have holes on the ends of their barrels, almost leading me to believe that at one point they had planned, blast effects. But as you can see, lay of the land wise, you can see there's no blast effects to be found here. The blaster does, though, hold in his hand. Even really with the hands that he has right now, you can just take the blaster, you can just fit it into his hand like that. It's a pretty simple tutorial. How does a figure hold a blaster? The answer, though, to that question is not honestly the easiest. With the hand that he has right now, he just barely holds on to the pistol. The hand, though, that he has right now is actually a little bit more better suited for the cannon that he comes included with. This big, large-barreled gun. I think it's a rocket launcher. The original toy also had this as well from way back when, although the original toy would have had this all cast in like a dark gray plastic. I'm not really sure why they chose to make this gold when, if they wanted to make this look like the original vintage toy, why not keep the colors of the accessories the exact same? My only real guess is that if you look at also the lay of the land of the plastic of the figure, there's so much already grays all over his body anyways that I think they want just to mix things up a little bit and add some nice necessary gold. Looks good, though. Obviously it can hold in his hand as well. Just get that into his hand. And definitely that hand is a little bit better suited for this gun versus the other pistol. He does also have some swappable hands. Yes, he does. He's got some closed fists. Obviously, following the formula, whether you're an alien mouse or not, thumbs will always go in. You can also as well just match the colors. That will be the side for cybernetic arm. This will be the side that goes on the other side. And of course, he also comes with a pair of relaxed hands. Same formula. Same rule of thumb applies. The figure also comes included with some swappable head sculpts. So let's just pop the cannon out of his arm for right now. So he gets 3 head sculpts, even though I'm really only pointing at 2. I'm only showing 2 because he already has one on the ends. Well, he already has one on the end of his neck, but it comes with also 2 variations of that as well. The one that obviously if you're going to be riding around in bike, you want to make sure that your safety's first. It does also come included with the helmeted head sculpt, which really, again, is no different than the ones we got before. So there was Vinny's. Where was Throttles? Throttles is right here. So it seems strange I'm holding all 3 heads just on the ends of my fingers. All 3 of them came included. I mean, obviously, Modo's has to be so much bigger because he's the bigger character. This will swap out in a second. Also, the character comes included with, I would say, really my favorite of all the head sculpts we've gotten so far from the Biker Mice. This is my favorite. The only thing I would say, though, if we do want to look to some of the canon of the cartoon, when Modo would get angry, one of the things that he would do is that the side of his eye would glow, like the entire eyeball would glow red. Now, obviously, in order to make one eye red, I mean, the only eye that he really has right now, it would mean that this head sculpt would basically be only good if you want to make an angry Modo. I suppose probably one of the reasons why they chose not to do that is if you just wanted to have a regular-looking expression Modo, then this is the better head sculpt to go with. That's probably one of the reasons why they chose not to make his eyeball red. Just, again, like a little reference to the cartoon. Changing out the heads, though, by the way, the head that we start with first out of the packaging does have, though, Modo with his mouth closed. You can still see he's got the little teeth sticking out there. I mean, like, really, between the heads, I love this head sculpt so much. He's got little piercings there. He's got 2 ears pierced. Well, he's got 2 earrings pierced on one side of his ears. He doesn't have it on the other side. And, of course, he's got the antennas on the top. Couldn't help but also notice as well that the antennas on this head sculpt are a little bit further apart from one another than this one here. The antennas, by the way, are kind of a softer plastic. Probably a good thing, too, because if you're trying to put the head sculpts on top of necks, you almost feel like you want to be putting the pressure here, and you really have to kind of put that pressure more to the back because you obviously don't want to be pushing these down. To change the head, though, is just pop that off the ball joint, replace it with this one, which, again, is my favorite of the 3. Or if you want to have it displayed with the helmet, just again, you're popping that back onto the ball joint. Some pressure may be required on your part to get these actually onto the ball joints. I have, though, with the frustrations I already had with the other 2 figures trying to get the heads on there, I have heated this, although I probably didn't heat it nearly enough. But the head would have, like, that helmet instead, if you want to go with that look. So remove that. We'll put back on my favorite of the 3. And we'll just twist that onto the ball joint here. Now, for the look of the rest of the figure, he looks very much like he does from the cartoon. He's got one robotic arm. Unfortunately, one thing that the arm has to now sacrifice in order to be a robotic arm is that he only has 1 hinge in his elbow instead of 2. You can see, though, the way that everything lines up, though, it gives you a perfect bend. I didn't really spend a whole lot of time talking about this, and I really should have. When we look at the articulation on the figure, the thing I really like about them is the way that they handle the double hinge in the elbows. I mean, normal figures obviously do succeed when it comes to double hinges, but this is one of the better ones where it doesn't feel like there's this gap cut in mark. Sometimes when you get a double hinge on the elbow, what ends up ultimately sometimes happening is you get like a little ledge right here where the top of the elbow ends here, and then of course you got the bottom of the tricep right here. So there always seems to be like a little gap. You get a nice fluid motion here with the double hinge on the elbow. Just something I did want to talk about. Head sculpt, though, looks good on this guy. Now the top of this torso here, his armor piece is separate from the rest of his body. The likelihood is why they've done that is because they're also doing previews exclusives of the Nacelle Biker Mice from Mars figures with different outfits. Instead of having to worry about the cost of tooling a brand new torso piece every single time, I'm sure that all that they've really done is just molded, of course, the torso as it is without anything on it, and then just molded anything separately so that you would just add the pieces over top depending on what figure of that version of Modo you're getting. So again, from what I've seen, at least online, there's 2 different other variations of Modo with different outfits. So that's probably why they've smartly decided not to mold this as all one torso. And again, why they've had that as separate pieces. Color looks good on this guy, though. He looks very much like he does in the cartoon. Purple looks quite good. And again, you got the bright red here. That paint, one thing I will say, though, is like the paint looks really good on all these figures. I haven't had so far, other than really Vinny with 1 mark on his shoulders, I haven't experienced any real paint problems at all with these figures. Again, this guy does have the articulated tail. One thing you'll be also happy to know if you guys have been following the exploits of the person behind the camera, I did have problems earlier with Throttle's tail. I finally have now been able to free it. It was tight, and I couldn't get it to budge at all. I went back with a hairdryer, and I just made a few passes, and then I had to really put a lot more pressure than I was expecting to, and finally that tail gave way. So that's probably why now you can get these figures to sit properly on their bikes, because of course now the tails are going to be getting out of the way. For the articulation, though, for Modo, picking the figure back up. It's basically going to be the same as both Vinny and Throttle. So if you're familiar with those figures, you'll be familiar with what this guy's able to do as well. Head's going to be again on that ball joint post, so it's going to rotate back and forth. Have the head looking up, and you can have the head looking down. You can also rock it back and forth as well. Now the shoulders come out. Now where they've designed the shoulder pads, I would have thought that would have caused conflict when it comes to bringing the arms outward. I thought, okay, there's no way I can get the arm any further out than this. But somehow it's able to pull that off. I don't know how, but it's able to do it, and I'm glad that it does. You can take the arms and rotate them all the way around. That's on both sides as well. He does have a swivel here. Now again, he has to lose 1 point of articulation here for the elbow, but he still manages to have it fully with a double hinge on this side. Hands rotate also all the way around. The upper torso, don't pop the head off, whatever you do. There we go. The upper torso is going to be on a ball joint, although it's really tight on Modo here. The lower waist is also on a waist swivel. Legs split out. And again, I did mention this in the other two reviews that, you know, it's a shame, though, that unfortunately you have to see these unruly ball pegs at the top there that allow the figure's legs to move forward and back. I mean, they probably could have moved this a little bit further up, but to get the range that we're getting right now for these figures and for the fact that they have to eventually sit on bikes is probably one of the main reasons why we have to deal with these the way that they are. I mean, at least they're colored somewhat the same. You can probably see they're a little shinier, though, than everything else that's below it. But, you know, again, it's bothering me less the more that I'm looking at them. It does, though, at least grant them a swivel at the top of the thigh. Figure does have, again, a very good range in the knees. Articulation here for the boots. You can move the ankle up and down, and you can also rock them back and forth as well. I may have said it already. If I haven't, I'll say it here. The figure doesn't have any pegals in the bottoms of his feet. I don't think it necessarily is going to work at all anyways with the bikes, because I would have just expected that the figures would have tabbed on to their pedals, but that doesn't seem to be the case. It's probably just a case more so that they're going to sit on top of their seat, and that's it. And of course, you got yourself your tail articulation that moves back and forth all the way really around if you wanted to, and they also hinge out as well. All in all, though, like a good line, then this really does wrap up what we've been looking at here with the Nacelle. And again, I say Nacelle, not Nacelle, of the Biker Mice from Mars figures. We had already looked at Vinny. Of course, we did start things off with Throttle, and now we're wrapping up the reviews with Modo. Whether you were a fan of the original toy line way back when, which again, like a lot of the accessories, more so like, again, these little gimmick accessories were all the things that came included with the original toy line. Modo's really wasn't necessarily a gimmick. It was just a really large gun, and it wasn't really cast in this color. But again, I like the gold that they've chosen instead. Like this line quite a lot. I'm looking forward to, of course, getting the bikes. I don't think, as far as I know, the bikes are out yet. They're on pre-orders through various online sites. As it also stands as well, each one of these figures are selling online for around $36 a piece. The bikes are going to be going for around $46 to $47, so about $10 more difference than what we're getting for the figures. But I think Nacelle has done a really good job on this line, and looking forward to seeing what else the company has in store for us Biker Mice from Mars fans. I did say earlier that Modo does have separate armor from the rest of his torso, and a lot of that probably had to do with the fact that Nacelle was going to be releasing other variations of the Biker Mice from Mars, and from a tooling standpoint, it just would have been a lot easier to produce that molding tool separately from the rest of his body. Now, with the case, though, of Modo and really all the rest of the Biker Mice from Mars are getting touchdown versions of them, where they're basically wearing football jerseys. The arms seem to be the same. In fact, actually, he's using the exact same shoulder pieces at the top of his arms as the touchdown version of him. And there's also two variations of them. There's a regular touchdown, which is a previews exclusive, and then there's going to be a black and white version of that as well. Not really as interested necessarily of the black and white. To be all honest, I'm not really all that interested in getting the touchdown version of the Biker Mice. I think just the regular Biker Mice from Mars are more than enough. The question, though, does ask, would I be considering getting more than one of these? One to have then displayed on the bikes, and then one to be displayed without their helmets. With at least the price, I got to say that Nacelle is selling these for $36 to $37 a piece, with all the things that you're getting and a decent quality of plastic that they're using as well. I don't mind spending a little bit extra to get a second set of these, one to have then displayed with their bikes when I do eventually pick those up, and then one to be displayed, like I said, without the helmets. All of the three figures have been quite good. My favorite, I would still say, is Vinny. Vinny, if anything, I would say is probably just a little too short. I know, again, like their sizes do vary in the cartoon, but maybe Vinny does come up literally just a little bit short. What has been your favorite of the 3 Biker Mice from Mars figures we've gotten from the folks over at Nacelle? And I have to say Nacelle, not Nacelle. Let me know down below in the comment section. Also as well, if you guys, hey, are interested and would like to get these for yourself, they are starting to show up through various online sites. I did also mention in the earlier review of Vinny that I think Walmart is starting to stock or have planned to stock the Nacelle Biker Mice from Mars figures. So eventually, yeah, you're going to be able to find them at those stores as well. But for at least right now, the easiest thing and probably the quickest way to get them is you can head over to Entertainment Earth. That's where at least I got the set of 3 from, and they're in stock as far as I know. Using the links provided down below in the video description, not only will take you directly to the Biker Mice, but also as well, those links will save you 10% on anything you want to do while you're shopping around on their site. As long as it's in stock, you can save 10%. So you can save 10% on the Biker Mice, or you can save 10% on something else if you want instead. In the meantime, if you guys did enjoy this video, do it a solid. You want to throw it a like? Why not? If you guys want to stick around for more so, I hope so. Hit the subscribe, turn on the bell, come back please. As always guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.